So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show recorded on Ustream for ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm going to have a play with my graphik derwent water-based pigment painter pen. Line painters they're called, graphic line painters. And I think you can see I stirred them up now, but when they've had time to settle, you can see through the colour. And there's a little ball bearing in there, so you kind of need to shake it first, and then you've mixed your paint up. Now, the wonderful things about these is they say they're not refillable, but if you go on their website and you clog up one of the ends of the pens, if you don't put it properly, or if for some reason it gets clogged up, you could pull the nib out very gently and soak it in water and clean it, and then dry it and then bob it back. So in theory, if you can do that, you can stick a needle. There are some art needles that's quite fat, syringe needle, and you can fill that with colour paint and put that in. And if it's just pure watercolour, proper, without any bits in it, not gouache probably, even though this reacts like a gouache, but I wouldn't put a gouache in. I would just put a professional watercolour, tiny little bit, mixed up, so it's quite a very liquidy. Obviously, it's a good liquid consistency. And then I would syringe that in and put the nib back in and see if you could use it. It may not work, but I'm going to have a go, because again, I like things tight Yorkshire lass. I can't bear the thought of throwing these away. So if anybody's got any of these that are finished, send them to me and I'll refill them. I'll use them for something or other. But there's some gorgeous colours, and they've all got unusual names. So we've got, I'll shout the name out as I do a colour swatch. So I've just written quite rough on a piece of paper, 1 to 20, and I've done a little doodle of mine so that I can fill each colour in as a solid colour, as a pen. So I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing, because otherwise it's going to be difficult to see exactly what I'm doing. So I think I may need a little tiny bit of a I think that's the best. So you shake them up and down, and then you should be able to draw quite a nice line. And this is number 1, and I want to see if it'll go over the pencil line. And number 1 is called Brick Road for obvious reasons. And what I want to do, so I need to get my brush handy. Use a medium-sized brush, I think. So I've got a damp brush. Oops, and I've spilled a splash. You see, oopsie, you can do this, make blobs. But I didn't intend to do that. So you can use them as a paint, and then you can manoeuvre them. This is going to be just a colour splash card then now in this case. So they're very, very vibrant. They're very vibrant. And I think people are using them like that. I didn't want to use them quite in that kind of splashy way, so I need to kind of address that a bit. If you get some more colour under here, you really want to. I want to kind of get rid of that, so that I can have my lines, because I wanted to use mine kind of a bit sparingly. Yeah, they're a bit floody actually. I don't like that. I think you've got to take the nib out and start again once you get this flooding. You're supposed to take this out, but the problem is nearly all that's gone now, because it's quite a big space in there, you see. So you can quite easily get. I'm not going to actually. I'm just going to dry it on a dry tissue, see if that works. So, I didn't expect that on my first play. So that's behaving itself slightly better. And I'm just going to twist that into there. Oh, hi Judy, welcome. Oh dear, sorry Judy, I thought it was quite early for everybody. That's better. I think you've got to be a little bit careful. I mean, it's a gorgeous colour, but I mean, it is designed to be flicked and splattered and all sorts, but as a graphic designer, I didn't want them to do that. So I've got to be a bit careful. I've now got bits everywhere. But you can draw over the top, so I can show you that. So maybe I don't need to do it quite as vigorously as I did. So I'll colour this one in, because I want to be able to put a tiny bit of colour on. Oops, sorry, not in frame. I need to put a tiny bit of colour on. That's what I want to do when I'm using them. So my initial kind of play didn't do that. But that was better behaved, that one. I think I'd shook that one up a little, probably a little bit too much. That one was called Clockwork Orange for obvious reasons, and this one is called Tom. I'm not quite sure where the red Tom comes from. Now this one is one that is very, very clean here, so this one should behave itself. And again, it's a really nice red colour. And what I intend to do with it is put a little bit of colour and then manipulate it round, because it's water based. But I was just going to go through the colours, so you've got to be a bit careful then and keep that lovely clean end, and then they behave themselves. This one's called Herring, so it's red herring. So this is kind of a cad red, almost vermilion, just that bit pinkier red. The other one was an orangey red, and this is kind of a real cherry red. So this is quite a nice colour as well. So the trick is not to shake them up too much, just a gentle mix of colour. Keep all that nice and clean to avoid splatters, because I don't really want to. This is called blood, this one, so obviously this is going to be a dark red. So you've got yellow, obviously like a dark cad yellow. I would say that was more of a tangerine. Then we've got a really dark blood orange, then we've got a cherry red, and then we've got a blood colour. Let me move this out of the way, I can read chat. So welcome to Bunny's Designs. Well, I'm sure with my dulcet tones I can knock you out, because in the UK it's 20 past 11 in the morning, so of course in the US it's about 3 a.m. so I'll whisper. Shall I whisper? So do feel free to nod. My shows are very quiet and very peaceful, so I'm sure you can sleep through them. So this one's called Tickled, obviously because it's pink. So this again, it's a nice pink, and it's behaving itself because I haven't managed to get any nasty colour down there. It depends how you want to use them. Artists like to splash them about and make big splashes like this and splatters. Then you do need that. You need that. But if you want to use them like a graphic pen, like I do. Now I've just done the same thing, so I'm going to colour this one in. Right, and I've flooded this one as well, so this one's not going to behave itself now. You can see the difference, the colour all touching that nib, and it's just pouring out. So I've got to do something about that. But if you're using it as an artist, you would take your damp brush and you would move it about and draw. And as you can see, you can draw over them once they're dried, so that's quite good. Spread them about, and you can use watercolour to kind of make them waterish, but it's not going to touch that yellow underneath. That yellow one underneath, and the purple one is now dry. It's not going anywhere, and neither are these. Once they're dried, they're like gouache. Sorry, they're not like gouache. They're like acrylics, and the ink tends. That one was still wet. Mix that with purples. You can blend them together to make different colours. Just made kind of a dull purple or a dull yellow. But once they've dried, that's it. So the next one, and the purple one is called Purple, I think. And I've got purple everywhere. So I could do with a baby wipe, really. So I wanted to use them a bit more kind of graphic-y, but this one's called Brilliant, and it's because it's blue. So I intend to just put a little bit of a colour into something and then manipulate it. I'm just doing a very quick colour scheme. So they're a bit floody, but again, it depends how you want to use them. And I seem to have got purple everywhere. They're very strong colours, very, very strong colours. They are very strong colours. So I don't know why I've got purple everywhere. But I had a problem with the purple one last time. And I seem to have got purple all over this one. I got purple everywhere. Right. So we've done Brilliant Blue. The next one is number 9, which is High. And I intend to kind of put two colours together and mix them almost like a paint. Number 10 is called Billy, and this is like a turquoisey green. almost a viridian. Number Paradise is number 11, and again I'm trying not to shake too much because I don't want to have that floody effect. I want to use them as a liner, as like a water marker rather than a splash for paint. This is a gorgeous one. This is called Minted, and it's number 12. And again, that's going to behave itself because the nib is all clean. It's just the paint at the end. So it's going to behave itself as that one. So you can tell how rough you are with them, how different they're going to be. So this one is going to behave itself like a line. So if you want a very fine, precise line, you can get one. This one is called Envy. And again, this one looks quite clear. There's just paint on the actual nib, so that looks like it's going to behave itself. But again, you can draw over things. And then if you do that while it's wet, it will move. And you can manipulate more colour and blend them out. But once it's dried, it's not completely dry, the colours won't move. So number 14 is Fingers Green, for green fingers. And again, this one looks like it might behave itself a bit. I've not been too rough with this one. This is kind of a mustardy green colour. And then we've got Brick Red, I think this one, Brick Lane, which will be a brick red colour. And again, this is a little bit more floody than I'd like, but really fab colours, and you can kind of get very precise colours on top of colours when they're dried. This one is Jungle, and it's a grey. Don't know if this one's a silver grey. Silver Fox is the silver one. This is a grey, just a very, very simple grey. This is quite nice. Oopsie. And number 17 is Graphite. So of course that's going to be like a slightly darker grey. Oops. So this is just having a play. I've had one play before, but when I open them, but this is the kind of, and what you can do, that's not quite dry yet, isn't that? So you can, to draw over a bright yellow is quite fab. And then if it's wet, you can use a brush and damp it. And it is a watercolour, so you can do all sorts of things you can do with a watercolour. The brick red is still quite wet, so I can fill in, or I can manipulate it to a very pale watercolour, and that's what I want to do, take it from very dark to very pale. And that's what I'm going to do in the colour book, but I just thought I'd have a very quick play. And obviously this is magic for black magic, so again you can draw with it. So it's going to give very, very vivid black. But then a damp brush, and you can take that, and it's a lovely kind of warm, it's a warm black. Is that? It's not a colder black, it's a nice warm black. So I can take it from the darkest to the palest, which of course is what I like to do. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps, because I haven't got my glasses on. I've been driving this morning, so my eyes are a bit. So we've got white over here. Now it does. I think it's an opaque white, this one, isn't it? So it should work over other colours. That wasn't quite dry. The yellow's dry, but the red isn't quite dry. And so you've got quite a nice white there. And then this one is actually supposed to be, it's a silver, it's called Fox number 20, and it's metallic. So we should get a nice metallic effect. If I do another, and again that's quite nicely behaved. So if you can see there, whoopsie, it's shiny, it's metallic. And again, you know, if you do a circle and then you can manipulate that, the same way you can the others. So that should be quite good fun. So there's quite a lot of colours there, and then of course you can put two together. So we could put a yellow, and then we could put a little bit of dark blue with it. And if you go on the website, it shows you all these techniques, and then you can blend them together to make a green. I think I've got some silver left on my brush, but you can do lots of colours. Now that's what I'm going to do on here. I'm going to mix colours together on my little book. So I'm going to zoom out and make sure all my pens are the right way round. Not really bothered about them being in order because I can actually pick them up in colour, but I do like my little colour scheme, which is always I don't need the little box anymore at the moment. So they actually come in this little box and sit in the box, but because I've been jumping about quite a lot and making a lot of noise, I'm conscious that it's a fiddly thing, so it's easy for me to have them here. But again, yellow, orange, reds, pinky reds, purples, purpley blues. This is the order that they're actually in. Greeny blues, and then greens, reds. Don't have any browns, but we could make some browns. So that's the colours we've got, and that's the full set, and that's my little card, which I'm going to turn over, and so that's just a rough idea of what they do, so you can get some quite precise shapes and fine lines. I want to use it in a colour book though, so again, I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm not going to use a lot of water. These, if you go on the website, the derwent website, they show watercolour paper it's wet, and then you throw this colour in and it runs like a watercolour, so you can get some really free, expressive marks with this, and splash them and blow them and splatter them, and all sorts of really, really fast art. Well, I'm a bit of a slow girl in a colour book, so I want to manipulate a little bit of colour and then using a damp brush blend them, but still have some quite vibrant colours. So did I want to use a building? I can have some quite nice greys. I can have some nice greys. Do the flowers first. So we've got, you can either be kind of really, really, and I love the colours, that's why I chose these. You can be kind of fantasy, kind of not reality colour wise, and that's why I've chosen this one, because it's not really a reality picture that I want to do this house that it looks like a little brick red house, and I want to have proper flowers looking like proper flowers. This I can do a mint leaf if I want to do a mint leaf, so I kind of thought I could play about with Billy number 10 and mint number 12, and I think these two mixed together might give quite a nice effect on a leaf. So if I can really quickly just draw a leaf, because it's still quite a nice colour page, I don't want to destroy it too much. I've got to be a bit careful because I don't think this pen is waterproof, but if we do a very quick design, oh, we want a leaf shape, don't we really? So we've got a leaf there. So I need a damp brush, and I would think you're going to have your damp brush ready. And I thought about putting some colour here and manipulating that around. I don't know if it's going to work. The other thing you can do is damp your page first, but of course we don't really want to do that. No, it's not going to work how I wanted really, but some nice colouring there. I may have to do it slightly different. The other way you can do it without using too much water is you still need a damp brush, and I'm going to do these two leaves here. The other thing with these pens is you have to replace the caps almost immediately, and you also have to keep them laid flat as well, because they don't play nice if you have them on end. So that was just a damp brush, no water, just manipulated. So I'll zoom in and I'm going to have a play. It's not one of my favourite pages, although I do love this Daydreams book, but I want to play. So two things you must do is put the lids on properly and keep them flat, because if the nibs dry out, you've got to take the nib out and soak it and clean it and then try and get it back in. So you're going to lose a lot of pigment, which as a tight Yorkshire lass I do not want to do. But they're really designed for having a watercolour page and either spraying or wetting an area and then dropping colour in, and it will do some fantastic things. But as I say, I'm going to use it in this kind of vivid, bright way in a colour book without water, because I want to keep my pages flat. So I need the damp brush. It's only a small one. I might go a bit bigger for a bit bigger leaf, I think. I'm not really using the brush with water. I'm just keeping the liquid flowing. So I'm going to put a little bit of this at the bottom here. And then I want this here in the middle. And then very quickly before it dries, I need to manipulate it and blend it. And you've got to be fairly quick because it dries. So I'm going to leave the tops off until I've finished, because you have got to be fairly quick with this. I'm going to use my number 6 Art Master Pearl Series 11. It's just an ordinary synthetic brush, a fat brush, but it does have a nice point on the end. So that's going to be able to manipulate a fair amount of colour out. I'm going to have to work quite fast because the nature of this paper is it's not going to want to, and I've got to be a bit careful now because that's quite damp, so I have to be a bit careful, so it may not work quite as well as I wanted it to. But quite dramatic because of the colouring. So we've got this one here, and remember we can't, now it's going through, so it goes through because I've dampened it too much. So let me try it without a brush then. So what I need to do is to kind of colour this bit here. Oopsie. Yeah, they're not very good for a colour book. It hasn't technically gone through. So, yeah, they're no good for a colour book. Oopsie. So that was a bit... Oh, pull the nib out. Whoops. That's not good. Pull the nib out. That's what the nib looks like when you take it out. So if you did not put the lid on properly and you did not store it upright, you stored it upright and it dried out, you take that out and you soak that in water, in warm water, and then when you clean it and dry it, you push it back in. And that's how you reconstitute it. So, yeah. So they're not going to be any good for colouring. But never mind, that's fine. I can live with that. I'm just going to take that off there. I can still match that colour up. So I've wasted a lot of paint actually. So I'm going to use these on watercolour paper. But I do like the colours, it's just I'm not quick enough. So that was my bit of disaster. Thanks for watching. That was a disaster.